Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Madhuri Goswami and this is the fourth in the series of the lesson on the active and passive voice in English grammar. In the first part of this lesson series, we studied what is voice in English grammar and we discussed in detail the active voice and the passive voice. Along with this, we also discussed why to use the passive voice and how we can use it not only in the formal writing but also in the informal ways of speaking and writing both. In the second part of the series, we learned how to change from the active to the passive voice, what are the steps or rules which we should follow while changing from the active into the passive. And in the third part, we had the discussion on all the tenses and the verb form in the active voice as well as in the passive voice in all the tenses. We also knew the fact that in the tenses, future continuous, the present perfect continuous, the past perfect continuous, and the future perfect continuous. In these tenses, there is no passive verb form. So, in these tenses, we cannot change the active voice into the passive voice. We also took into consideration the modal verbs and had one exercise. Now, in this lesson, we will do practice because I already told you that practice makes a man perfect and the study of grammar is futile. It's of no use if we don't practice. So, let's practice now. The first exercise is that we have already done in the previous lesson, but for the sake of revision, for the sake of more clarity, we are taking it up again. Dear students, now it's practice time. As promised, now we will do practice. There are 3 exercises which I will give to you. 2 of them we will do in this lesson and 1 is for your home assignment. Here is the first exercise. I have tried to incorporate all kinds of sentences in this exercise so that if you have any doubt, that can be resolved here. The first sentence is, the thieves cut the wires of the powerhouse. So we need to identify 3 things. Number 1, who is the agent? Number 2, what's the action? And number 3 is the receiver. The thieves is the agent, it's the subject, it's the doer as they are performing the action of cutting. What's the action? Cut. The wires of the powerhouse is the object, the receiver of the action. So, the first rule is, when we change the sentences into passive voice, we need to identify the object of the active voice. And that's placed as the subject in the passive voice. So here, the wires of the powerhouse, this phrase works as the object. And this becomes the subject in the passive voice as you can see in the answer. And the subject of the active voice will take place at the end of the sentence as the object, and that is the thieves. And the preposition by would be used before this. So, by the thieves. Now, the rule number 3. The change in the form of the verb. In this sentence, there is the past simple tense. Don't get confused because the word cut, its second form of the verb is the same, cut. So, in the past simple, the passive verb form is was or were plus third form of the main verb. Here, the wires of the powerhouse are plural, so we will use were. So, the wires of the powerhouse were cut, as the third form of the cut is the same, cut. So, the passive voice will go like this. The wires of the powerhouse were cut by the thieves. Don't make a mistake not to change the verb form. Otherwise, there will be the distortion of meaning. The second sentence is, his mother gave him a toy. Just identify SVO. Well, in this sentence, we have 2 objects, indirect object and direct object. His mother is the subject, gave is the verb, him indirect object, a toy direct object. We can change the sentence into passive voice by taking any of the objects. We can take him and we can take a toy also. But the indirect object is taken preferably. So we will take this word him in place of the subject of the passive voice as it's the object in the active voice. Him becomes he. His mother is the subject in the active voice and that will take place of the object in the passive voice. Of course, with the preposition by. Now the verb form. The tense of this sentence is past simple. Gave. This is the second form of the verb. It will be changed into the passive voice, be plus third form of the main verb. Main verb is give and the third form of the main verb is gave. But before that, what will be the form of verb be? As he is the third person singular, so we will use was. As it's a past tense, so we'll use was. He was given a toy by his mother. And what if we take the direct object as the subject of the passive voice? A toy is the direct object, and if we take this word as the subject of the passive voice, then it will be read like this. A toy was given to him by his mother. Then before the indirect object, we need to use preposition. Here in this case, the preposition to. Well, let's take up the third sentence. We are baking the bread. We subject, are baking verb, the bread is the object. So what will we pick up first? Yes, we will pick up the object, that's the bread, and we will place it as the subject of the passive voice. The bread. Now the verb form. With the bread, we will use the verb is. And of course, baking. It will be transformed into being baked. So the bread is being baked by us. Here you can leave the object. If it's not important to mention, you can just write down the object by us within the brackets also. The next sentence is, Sam will not pay the money. Yes, in this sentence we have the future simple. And Sam is the subject, will not pay is the action or verb, and the money is the object. So what we will do first? Yes, we will take up the money, that's the object, and we will place it as the subject of the passive voice, the money. Now what will be the next change? Yes, verb form, will not pay. Yes, this sentence is in the negative form. So the verb form will be, will not be paid. The form of the verb be in future simple is will be, as it's negative, so we'll use not between will and be. The third form of the main verb is paid, and the subject of the active voice will go as the object in the passive voice. Yes, of course, with the preposition by. So the passive voice of this sentence is, the money will not be paid by Sam. Now let's take up an example of the interrogative sentence. How could he win the car race? The interrogative word how, it will remain the same and its own position because we are not going to change the form of the sentence. If it's interrogative, then it will remain the interrogative even in the passive voice. So its passive would be, how could the car race be won by him? As the word phrase, the car race is the object in the active voice, so it would become the subject of the passive voice. And the verb form could win will become could be won. So, how could the car race be won by him? The next sentence is, they must have missed the flight. The passive of this sentence is, the flight must have been missed by them. Modal remains unchanged. Have missed, it becomes have been missed. Now let's take up the example of an imperative sentence. Shut the door. Imperative sentences can be changed into passive voice in two ways. The first one is let the door be shut. The use of the word let and then the use of the word be. Another way is the door should be shut. The use of the verb should be. So dear students, in this exercise we have seen the imperative sentences, the questions, modal verbs, present, past and future tense examples. This is just the beginning of the practice. Just take a look and write down all the sentences given in the exercise number 3 and exercise number 4. I'm just reading out these sentences for you. In the exercise 3, we have 7 sentences. First, Rohit has just cooked the food. Second, the workmen were repairing the road. Third, the plumber has repaired the pipes. Fourth, please shut the door. Fifth, let's solve the problem. Sixth, why did you not inform me? And seventh is, will anyone believe your story? All these sentences are in the active voice and you are supposed to change them into the passive voice. In the fourth exercise, you are supposed to change the voice of the sentences. For that, you need to first identify the voice of the sentence and then change it vice versa. Try to change the voice of these sentences. As you will practice, you may come across some problems, some doubts, some difficulties. Don't worry, we will check the answers to these exercises in our next lesson. So this is your homework, this is your home assignment. Solve these exercises. Till then, enjoy your assignment. Thank you for watching. Happy learning.